When have you been genuinely scared for your life? My friend and I were eating burgers in a darkly lit area on a street in Seattle when a man walked straight up to us with his hands in his pockets, gesturing like he had a gun. He says, "Give me your money." I immediately pretended to be drunk and got all chummy with him and said if I had money, that would be amazing. And the guy looked around and then walked off. No idea if that was smart or incredibly stupid, but I definitely realized in that moment that when your mind is in fight or flight, you have little control over what your brain is going to do. Had a massive asthma attack. As a paramedic myself, when your colleague looks you in the eye as he's sticking deafened patches to your chest L and radios for a TUC crew cardiac arrest backup, you know it's not good. Especially seeing as they can't use medical jargon around me as I already know it. So I know what a silent chest means. You're not moving any air. I know what it means when the nebulizers haven't worked and they start giving adrenaline. I know what the deafened patches mean, and I know none of it's good. I remember passing out really slowly, and as I closed my eyes I genuinely thought I was going to die, and I'd never open them again. To come around in the ICU later in with the same colleague by my side was the best feeling. He saved my life undoubtedly. When I was 11 I experienced anesthesia awareness during a surgery on my mouth. I was under but I wasn't. I could smell and feel everything, and I was hallucinating from the ketamine they gave me. Thought the doctors had killed me and I was in hell. That's my nightmare. Almost crashed in a helicopter. When the pilot started to freak out, that's when I knew we were in trouble. When I was at an outdoor range with a few friends, and one guy a few people down had a misfire in his 7mm Magnum. He pulled the trigger, no bang. He then turns around, muzzle sweeps everyone to his right, including me, and the guy behind him grabbed the gun, pointed it down at the dirt in front of Mr. Dumbus, and the round went off. Noon got hurt, but me and a few other people sat down to take a break after that, and Mr. Dumbus was promptly escorted off the range by a, rightfully so, pissed off row. Misfires are always nerve-wracking, and I've always been taught to hold it on target for 30 seconds before attempting to clear it, and always leave the muzzle pointed down range when you do, and Mr. Dumbus and his 7mm Magnum that had a slow burn or something really drove that point home. When my oncologist stopped saying the growth and started calling it the cancer and followed up with "now I'm gonna have to figure out how to save your life." Fortunately for me, he figured it out. Glad he did. That shit is scary AF. I lived on an artificial heart for 11 months. It was battery driven, and at night I had to plug everything into the wall. The terror was real. I had a thick cord exiting my abdomen attached to a computer that controlled the pump inside my body. The computer failed on me twice, and I had to swap it out myself. When the computer unplugs, you have no blood flow. I had to experience this twice. Then I had a heart transplant. That was far less terrifying than the artificial heart. When my ex-husband broke down the bathroom door and put a gun to my head and threatened to redecorate the bathroom with my blood and brains. It took almost a year to squirrel away enough money to leave. I haven't seen or heard from him in 25 years. I hope his life sucks. Edit. Wow. Didn't expect this response. To the women and men who have gone through this and escaped, I'm glad you made it out. To those still in their relationships, please leave as soon as you can. Make a plan. It will be hard, but so worth it. You don't have to be someone's punching bag. You are not worthless. They will never change. No matter how much you love them, they will not change. Was going to a market, gave a thumbs up to a dude in a nice car, and he pulled a pistol on me. I was maybe 12. Nice. The night my dad got so drunk and angry he came at me with a kitchen knife. Why and what happened after that? Well, when my dad's drunk he goes on a sort of food spree. He eats everything that he likes, but 30 minutes later forgets he ate it because he's so drunk. In this case he went back 2 hours later and his chocolate was empty because he already ate and thought someone in the house was stealing from him. So he got the knife and threatened to cut off whoever's hands that had taken it. As for what happened, my mom started crying, my brother ran off, and I nearly shit myself, if I'm being honest. I got everyone out of the way, back upstairs to bed as it was like 2 AM, and told mom I'd handle it. To this day she still doesn't know what happened. She thinks I talked him out of it. In reality I talked him down to put the knife down and then had to choke him out. Still bothers me 2 years later. Aged 8 or 9, I went on a field trip to a water park. The main attraction was the wave pool and it was severely overcrowded. When the bigger waves came in, I went under and about 5 others people landed on top of me, effectively pinning me underwater. A lifeguard saw it, luckily, and saved me, but holy fuck, I'll never forget that sensation of helplessness as I drowned. I was doing field mapping for a company I will not mention in the middle of nowhere, Central Texas. This was during one of the hottest summers on record and miserable outside would have been giving it a compliment. It was hell on earth. Alright, so I was doing my field work on an ATV and mapping rural electric utilities as the terrain was extremely rough and unforgiving. ATVs were the only way to do your work effectively. This day in particular was excessively hot, 111°F, with no wind. I'm a bigger guy and not afraid of too much, but I had the creepiest feeling looking at this dirt driveway that stretched around a mile on some redneck looking land that had rusted cars, etc. I get to the top of a hill on the property and spot my asset to map about a quarter mile away that was surrounded by dilapidated trailer homes. I drive my ATV close to what appeared to be a compound and dismount. I immediately felt uncomfortable as there were literally 20-30 beer cans surrounding the property. They were using this as a makeshift security system, so intruders would make tons of noise. We had a letter from the sheriff and the company stating we could be there to map the utilities, so I said my name, company name, purpose, and went about my business. I then followed the electric lines around through their backyard and waded through the beer cans to reach the asset so I could map the unit. I look over and there is a clearing in the beer cans with a chair. I take a close look and see piles and piles of animal bones. The crazy fucks that lived at this place were eating whatever type of animal they could get their hands on and leaving the scraps to rot in their backyard. I then get the most uneasy or being watched and possibly cannibalized feeling I've ever felt. I then turned my head and immediately locked eyes with an eyeball in the broken Venetian blinds behind a window in one of the trailer houses. We both paused, stared, then the blinds closed. This all took place in about 2 seconds. I then ran like hell, hopped on my ATV, said fuck safety and drove like someone in a Honda Motorsports advertisement. I escaped the compound. Mind everyone, I had a old lady point a shotgun at me on a separate occasion and was bitten by a copperhead, but that compound was easily more terrifying than that. I quit shortly afterward and so did most people on my team. Fucking around on people's property in the middle of nowhere, Texas is a suicide mission, even if you have the law's permission. On a tour in some mountains in Scotland. Very nice guy driving me up a mountain. It's icy as fuck. All going well until the car swivels out of control and starts to pendulum towards a tree. Genuinely thought it was it. Somehow the driver stops and we just about miss the tree, crashing into a ditch. He asks me not to mention it to his boss. I tell him to drive on. When my mother told me to do chores and I held them off until the moment I hear the garage door opening. Same goes for thawing the chicken. Stick that bitch in the microwave, it'll be fine. Caught in a tornado, out iced, no cover, just laid down in the mud and prayed. Trees fell all around me, but I managed to stay put and none landed on me. It was nuts. You did the right thing. The winds are slower toward the ground and you're harder to pick up. What a terrifying experience. When I was a Boy Scout, we were backpacking in the Eagle Cap Wilderness area of eastern Oregon. We tried to make it up Glacier Pass, but the trail was completely snowed out still in July. We turned around and stopped at the first meadow we found to eat some lunch. About 15 minutes go by and our scoutmaster very calmly tells us to stand up and put our backpacks on because we needed to leave. I look in the direction the scoutmaster is looking and there is a very large cougar staring at us from across a shallow creek. We started down the trail and I looked back towards the cougar to see if it had moved. That damn cat was crossing the creek and following us. We kept moving and kept looking back to see it occasionally. The cougar followed us for about 3 miles before we lost track of it. That night, we had a decent sized campfire and me and 2 of the other older boys sat up most of the night watching out for it. The next morning, we found a freshly dead animal about 100 yards from our camp. During Hurricane Harvey, me and my dad had to get some people out of Crosby. However, they got I-10 shut down. So we had to take some of the back roads to get there. On the way there we got to one part of the road for a good 5 miles. The water was about 4 feet deep. My dad's truck is very big and the water was almost going on the top of the hood of the truck from water being pushed. Dad said he's been in war zones during his time in the army, had to drop troops off near an Iraq mortar squad that was bombing our drops during the Gulf War, and he said his heart had never beat as fast. Edit. Sorry, accidentally put inches. It was feet. Edit 2. Went back to actually change the paragraph to fix inches to feet.